Hi everyone, now in this video I'm going to be planting up some more stuff in my food forest. Now if you're not familiar with the food forest, the concept is pretty simple. We're working in harmony with nature on all different levels. I'm learning about it and hopefully you will too in this video. Now I've been out and bought some more plants. I've started off with some berries. Now this one is, I think, your normal raspberry, blackcurrant. Don't know exactly what this is. Mojo berry, but we could all do with topping up their mojo. So we've got 3 fruit bushes, got some cabbages, got some onion and garlic. We'll go over there and we'll basically talk about the principles, simplified version of the food forest. Now what I have here is a bare rooted apple tree, and it's a golden delicious variety. Now this is sponsored by Wanda, who recently became a top tier Gold Plus member on my Patreon. Part of the perks of that is you get a tree planted and yeah, you have your name attached to it. So thank you very much Wanda for becoming a Gold Plus member. We'll get this planted in. I'll get a little tag made for you and yeah, I'll keep you updated on its progress. Right, let's go and decide the best area for this lovely little tree. Now it's not a particularly big variety, between 2 and 3 metres tall, but as we come closer to this end of the boundary, next to the sunken garden, which I refer to as the dell, there's quite a lot of overgrowth for some trees. We've got the hazel and we've got a cherry tree there, which has basically got too big. Can't get to the cherries really, so I think this area could do with a light prune. So yep, I think it might be chainsaw time very shortly. Yes, even these small trees can be quite tricky to cut because they're smaller limbs. They just sort of come straight down, so I always like to do a little undercut and then angle it away from where you want it to fall. But yeah, it can be rather tricky. Sometimes the smaller ones are harder than the big ones. You cut in a big trunk, you know, you can almost get it down within sort of 3 metres where you want to drop it. These ones can be a little bit more tricky, so just take your time with the smaller ones. You know, treat them all with respect. Right, I'm going to get this one down now. What I've got to try and do is get it in between trees so we don't break the newly planted ones. I'll take some of these top limbs off first. Now there's a few overhanging ones here. Certainly do with chopping down. Don't forget, if you've got any gardening tips or advice, drop us a comment. I do read through them, and so do the viewers. We learn a lot from them actually. So let's share as much as we know. There's always a different, sometimes an easier way, sometimes a better way than doing something. You certainly never know it all with gardening. The main thing I know, if you get out in the garden, after you've finished, you go back in, you feel much better, so it doesn't really matter too much what you do when you're out there. Now we'll use these logs, not in the garden, for burning. It's just the small limbs I'm keen to get rid of. So, what's a food forest? Well, put in simple terms, it's an area with multiple layers, starting off with the canopy area, which is your trees, your fruit trees. You work your way down. It's probably 7 basic levels that are discussed in forest gardening. So you've got your trees, your canopies, then the lower levels you've got your growers that grow up the trees, vines, things like that. You come down to herbs and bushes, and shrubs. Then you move down to your planting, you know, your average sort of flowers and herbs at a lower level. Basically what they all do is they play a part in the eco environment in that particular area. So one will keep pests away, one will draw predators in. Basically, really, it's working with nature, you know, in harmony with things that grow near each other. Now, there's no hard and fast rule on what you can grow because everyone's area, soil, environment, location is different. So I'm going to do basic sort of research on different things. As long as they definitely don't hate each other together, I'll plant them together. The strongest will survive. I'm going to put a tree in. Around that area I'm going to put some shrubs, some fruiting shrubs and berries and things like that. Carrots will go in there, root vegetables, and above ground. Done 2 areas over there so far and it seems to be doing okay. Now I haven't spent any time in here for weeks on end and it hasn't been eaten by slugs and other, you know, munching insects or anything like that. So for me this is great because I can get on with other things, put it in and let nature look after it. It's doing a good job at the moment, better than I could probably do. Now this area here was planted up probably 4 to 6 weeks ago. Lots of leeks in there, lots of lovely little flowers and herbs. It all seems to be doing okay. We've got some celeriac there, look, that's growing good. It's down there, if you can see it, top of the bulb. Got celery in there, and yeah, I don't think there's, you know, anything complicated about this system. It's just you know, like permaculture, nature's way of growing in abundance. It's always been like that. Natural environment. I don't use any chemicals or pesticides. There's a little snail. Yeah, there's plenty to go around, mate. Nature does eventually balance itself out. Give it the right conditions, it will thrive. Yeah, I think it's just so important on many, you know, many different levels for your health, for your body as well as your mind, to get outside in the garden, get your hands in that dirt. You know, try a little bit of self-sufficiency. You know, they taste so much better than what you can get out of the shops, for sure. And you've got the cost saving as well. You know, so just create the right environment in a little area. You'll be surprised what you can grow. Use the vertical height as well if you haven't got much land. I mean, I've got quite a bit of land here, but it's all segregated in different areas. So that's why I basically thought, okay, I want to grow as much as I can in a particular size area. Started doing my research and up that pops food forest. So as long as I keep on top of the tall trees on the boundaries, the hazel, it needed cutting anyway, so I will at a later date cut that right down to the base and that will reinvigorate it and grow again. I'll use all the hazel, maybe make some sort of hurdle fences. Now it's had a good soak in water for several hours, so it's ready to go. So the bare root tree literally is just bare roots, kind of dormant, so Open it all up, loosen up the roots. So that's kind of where the top of the dirt is going to be, a little bit deeper. What I normally do is just gently heel it in. Now we'll water it in well for the first few weeks, and then it's on its own. Now it will all be mulched. I think it's important with this type of gardening that you don't have too much bare soil open to the elements. Plant it or cover it. I'll leave stones in as well. Now what stones do, particularly in spring and autumn, they heat up through the day and then slowly release the heat that they've stored throughout the night. So yeah, my granddad told me about that little hint, tip, whatever you want to call it. Now I am also very keen on the no dig method. As it sort of explains, you don't dig the soil over. Now the reason behind that is when you dig the soil, so the theory goes, you're breaking down or disturbing basically like the little eco world in there, sort of all the microbes and that, and you don't want to do that. So that helps me out because sometimes I can't do digging and that through various sort of things that are wrong with me Achilles heel and me disc in my back. But anyway, that don't stop me doing stuff. But with gardening, you know, that is a real boost, you know, to be able to garden without digging. Anyone that suffers with any condition knows that that can aggravate you. So what I'm probably going to do now, when it comes to the right time of year, which is a little bit, well, probably 2 weeks away, say, the farmers start mulching up all the trees and there's lots of bark and mulch available. So I'm going to cover a lot of this area with that. Cardboard first, probably 3 or 4 layers I think is the best. Mulch on top, and then all I'm simply going to do is get some bagged compost or soil, various different sort of qualities you can buy. Just empty them out into the bark and plant stuff into it. Time the cardboard breaks down, it's killed the grass off. The roots from whatever you plant are then able to go down and, you know, establish themselves. So okay, so we've got our tree there. Now obviously you don't want to plant right up close to the tree, so you've got to come out a little bit, and we could go a circle of cabbages round there, not spaced too close together, but they say 12 to 18 inches. I don't always listen to that. Sometimes I intersperse it with other things in between. They grow, you pull them up and eat them before the cabbages have got to their, you know, their size that they're going to achieve. Right, I'm going to have a sit down and think about the best way to make use of this area. Now it doesn't have to be equal or balanced, symmetrical. I know that does annoy some people, sometimes it does me, but when you think of the overall plan of this, it's going to be natural, it's going to be haphazard. There are going to be some incidences where there's rows, but there's no regimented plan for that. Although it is tempting to put them in lines and grids, but I'm not going to. Next I'm going to space some cabbages out. I've got onions as well. Never grown this one before. It's a very tall cylindrical shape, so Sam was keen to try them. I'm going to give it a bit of space. Now the idea is when you plant it up with onions and garlic, the aroma of that puts off the stuff that would normally eat your cabbages. Now, I'm by no means a professional gardener. I love gardening, I know a fair bit about it, but yeah, I don't think that really matters. You just need to get out there and have a go. Anyone can grow stuff. Yeah, it's lovely to put something in and watch it grow, you know. So for the onions, we've got white Ebenezer. So I've got a couple of dozen planted up around the outside and in between the cabbages. Just see how they go. I've got plenty more. If they don't take, I'll just plant some more. I think what I'm going to do with all these limbs that I've cut down, the big ones we're going to chop up as logs, but as it tapers up I'm going to use those for posts around this area here. Now it's kind of becoming a raised area here, so I'm going to pile all the twigs and all the offcuts in the centre there, and then once I've cut down the hazel, I've got enough posts, I'm going to make a raised fence around it using those limbs from the trees. So this mound here, I'm going to cut up all of the tree branches and limbs. Any soil, like if I've cutting some grass up, I'll turn it upside down so the soil's on the top. That will break down and it will be a good base for the raised bed. And this breaks down and feeds the soil beneath. And that way you've got a great basis for your raised bed. The more you chop it up, the quicker it will break down. It will all eventually compress down, especially once I get some more soil on top. And that way this will feed the base of this raised bed for quite a few years to come. Big stems of the cherry tree I'll cut up into smaller pieces. They'll be stored, probably used in about 3 years time for the fire. Yeah, I think I'll probably cut this back another time, but just for now this limb that's overhanging, buddleia, I think they do well once you cut them down to the ground. Now just cutting back that cherry tree has made a whole, deal of difference here. It's really brought in the sunshine, which would have been basically shadowed out. So yeah, quick cut back, we can reuse all the limbs, firewood, compost, and the area that would have been in the shade is now a plantable growing area. So yeah, I'm well pleased with that. So I think if you wanted to try and give this a go, you know, I think a good starting point would be a tree, maybe a dwarf variety depending on the size of your garden, and plant around it, do some research, find out what soil you've got, what way the sun rises and sets. Just basically take your time, sit down, have a look at things, see how they are, look around, just see what grows well in your area, look at your neighbours sometimes, you know, well that's doing good. Yeah, and if it does good there, the chances are your soil's similar and it's going to do okay in your place. So just have fun, get out there. It's great for, you know, feeling better once you've finished. Even once you're doing it, you start feeling better, without a doubt. Especially on a day like this, sun comes out. Yeah, it's lovely. Go in, warm up. There you go. And then gradually you come out here and you see things either flourishing or wilting. If they're wilting, there's something not quite right with it, you know. It's either being attacked by pests, you haven't got the balance right. Do a bit more research, find out what's going on with it. Now this time of year lots of things are slowing down, like the brambles, the grass. I probably will get this cut once I sort my ride-on mower out again. Yeah, finally give up the ghost on me, so yeah, that's how I hurt my Achilles heels, by pushing that mower about. But yeah, I'll soon be back on the ride-on, and probably another cut before the winter. Yeah, and that'll be fine. Now if you already have a food forest, you know, I'd really like to hear from you. Maybe you've got some advice and tips on what I can do better, you know, what plants go with what, and what success and failures you've had, because it's all a learning curve, all this stuff. Leave us a comment, hit that reminder bell, and this is it for this one, and I'm going to see you all in the next one. Don't miss it, because it's something a little bit different. Bye for now.